hard to kill. An edge that Steve has here, he's main decking several copies of Dismember, so he does have a clean answer game 1 to Gurmag Angler. This is something that tripped up Gerard Fabiano, for example, in the quarterfinals. Did not answer Gurmag Angler cleanly, just had bolts and small creatures, couldn't really handle it.
That was a huge problem for Gerard.
Steve has 3 main deck copies of Dismember.
Yep.
So I feel like he's well situated for this matchup.
You know, and Matthias and I felt the same way when he played against Joshua Taylor last match. I actually didn't think it was going to be as close as it was, because he does have the clean answer to Gurmag Angler, which is such a trump for the matchup. The Grixis Delver decks have a pretty hard time with just Tarmogoyf. It's always going to have 4 toughness, so Lightning Bolt is pretty much out the door, and then Deathrite Shaman can take over. That said, Joshua Taylor gave him a heck of a fight and came up what looks to be 1 damage short of actually winning the match.
And a huge issue for, you know, in Delver Mirror matches is who can get off the ground.
Yeah.
You know, who can get mana going. And Steve having a higher curve is a vulnerability in the matchup.
Well, both players will take a look at their opening hand. Again, Bastecki will be on the play, man on the draw. We'll see which one of these 2 players will be heading to the Players' Championship, as Bastecki's going to take a mulligan. It looks as though Man is going to keep. We, of course, do want to take the moment to congratulate Danny Jessup. Getting the job done. We see him a lot on the weekends because he's at most of the events because he really wanted to qualify for season number 3. But I tell you, he earned it, man.
Yes,
he fought it out.
A lot of work. I mean, this was a tough weekend for him. Did not do well in the Invitational, and had to sweat it out there on the second day, as several competitors like Logan Mize, like Chris Van Meter, like Ross Merriam were within striking distance. All of them faltered during the legacy rounds, and then it was smooth sailing. Danny Jessup invited to the Players' Championship, see the 3-point leader.
You know, I try to be unbiased about these things, but given how he just came up a little bit short last year, I'm pretty happy for him.
Yeah, he was thrilled. You know, and he's very humble about it. You know, he said he wished he had done better in the Invitational, and it was very stressful watching the second day of the competition, but he was able to hold on.
So he will be at the Players' Championship in the year. He's number 6. One of these 2 players, number 7. Going to be joining Jacob Wilson, Jim Davis, Kevin Jones, Alian Trazi, and Brad Nelson. As we are underway here, Misty Rainforest is what Bastecki will sacrifice. He's down to 19. We'll see what land he wants to search up with his Grixis Delver deck. He's going to go with a Volcanic Island. Does have a copy of Ponder in hand. So it looks like he will cast that. That'll resolve. So we'll take a look at the top 3 cards. We'll see if he wants to keep them or shuffle them away. Lightning Bolt and Daze in those 3 cards.
Yeah, and Alex just on the hunt for lands. Looks like he kept a 1 lander here. Did not find a land in the top 3.
See if he can find one with the mystery card. I think he did with Wasteland. Man will take a draw. Flooded Strand will be sacrificed. He's down to 19. See what land he does want to search up here between Underground Sea and Tropical Island. You mentioned only 18 lands in the deck.
Yeah, very, very resource light, these decks. And normally with all the cantrips, this is not an issue. You don't need that many lands to function, and you have a lot of draws. But in the mirror match, land count can be really significant because of Wasteland.
There's Deathrite Shaman. Now that's a way to work a way around Wasteland. However, here's Daze. So there that goes. And maybe we see Bastecki fire off the Wasteland now. Yep. Gonna try to get you. Dig through time to draw here for Man.
So Steve essentially gets to be on the play at this point, as Alex has set himself back a land drop via Daze.
Steve will go get Tropical Island this time.
I don't think it's a horrible gamble from Alex there. Usually you want to use Wasteland in a spot where you've created some leverage on the board, and setting back their development means you're continuing to clock them with whatever pressure you have. But a lot of times people will keep one land Deathrite Shaman draws on the draw. So after countering the Deathrite Shaman, it's not a bad roll of the dice to go after a land.
We've already seen Steve do that once this weekend when we watched him in his last match.
And I think that is Steve's last land in hand. He has no more lands in his hand right now, just the Tropical Island in play.
And now he's shuffling with Ponder.
Yeah.
So maybe another Wasteland comes rolling off here for Bastecki, fires that off, and Steve is saying draw and go.
We're right into a classic Delver mirror match.
Your favorite.
Turn 4 rolls around, no permanence in play.
Oh, Steve drew a Wasteland. Okay,
Ooh.
yeah, here we go.
The plot thickens.
There's Volcanic Island and a Delver of Secrets here for Bastecki. Doesn't mean it's going to resolve, though. Steve looks like he might have some interest in countering it. Does have Force of Will in hand. A couple copies of Tarmogoyf for Bastecki over there as well. It's going to resolve. So let's see what Mann draws here. Looks like a Delver of Secrets. Here's Tarmogoyf.
One of the premier threats in the matchup. Even though Alex is Grixis colors, he doesn't have a lot in the way of black removal. It's bolts, basically. So Tarmogoyf is excellent in this matchup.
Force of Will being aggressively cast here by Bastecki, removing Brainstorm.
And Alex didn't Daze, and this would be a good spot for Daze, so pretty safe to assume he either has another Force of Will or nothing to fight back on this Force of Will.
Mann's going to fight back with his own Force of Will, and now Tarmogoyf is in. Delver of Secrets is not flipping. And Tarmogoyf is currently a 4/5. You take a look at the graveyard there for Bastecki. It appears there are 5 cards in the graveyard, so he can't just cast Dig Through Time. Instead, he's got to cast a Ponder. That will resolve. Wasteland there for Alex. I don't know if I'm giving that up.
Well, the issue here for Alex is he needs to preserve double blue to be able to cast this copy of Dig Through Time. So the Wasteland's very threatening right now. He may take this opportunity to waste Steve's Wasteland. Looks like he's just going for a new set.
Interesting. Did not like what he saw. Now, I think there were a lot of lands in there. I think it may have been 3 lands. So if he does keep, Delver's not flipping anytime soon. So it looks like he wants some new ones instead.
It is somewhat dangerous, though, with Dig Through Time being the big payout card in Alex's hand, to shuffle away some lands here.
Gataxian Probe the draw.
Because if he gets wasted off a double blue, his hand does not amount to much.
Yeah.
I know you don't want the Delver just sitting there and not flipping or whatever, but a Wasteland plus another land is not horrible for Alex to see in that spot.
Probe for an actual mana. Delver, Dig, Abrupt Decay.
This is a great hand for Steve to have. If he draws another land, he's got plenty to do with it between Abrupt Decay and Dig Through Time. If he doesn't draw a land, he still has Delver plus Wasteland for next turn.
Nothing to really be unhappy about there.
Right, great hand. I mean, he would love an Underground Sea here, but Steve's got plenty to do even if he doesn't find it.
Well, the draw was Brainstorm, which is never bad. Now, I don't know if he wants to cast Brainstorm right now. Maybe he makes that Delver plus Wasteland play, but now he's got some real options in front of him.
I personally like Wasteland, cast the Delver, and Brainstorm on the upkeep. It's the most conservative play. The big shot here is to Brainstorm right now, trying to find another land, but I think this is a safer play.
Here comes Tarmogoyf. Now, will Mann fire off Wasteland?
Yeah.
Well, we know how you feel. Alex says, I know you're killing my land. Delver will flip here for Bastecki. Gataxian Probe the reveal.
Gitaxian Probe's a great thing for Alex to find here. It's a free way of flipping the Delver and getting a crack at another land.
It looks like he doesn't want to pay 2 life, but I think he's almost forced to right now. Because resolving Dig, it seems like a big deal right now, so he's going to pay 2.
It's not just resolving Dig. He also wants to keep Spell Pierce up in the event that he doesn't hit a land here.
Yeah.
So if he draws a land or a non-land, it's kind of the same thing.
Well, he did draw a land.
Yeah.
Buckle up.
Good way to play around Abrupt Decay.
Yeah.
Might not be counterable, but you got to be able to cast it.
Might be time to fire away. Steve.
I am in heaven.
Steve's going to check here with the Delver. No flip.
Good news, could be a land.
Yeah, could be a Tarmogoyf. It is a land.
Yes!
That's Wasteland number 5 this game.
Just like Richard Garfield intended.
Yep. Just no one can play a spell now. Here we go.
Sorry, that was a spell?
Yeah. Big mistake. Oh, Steve drew a land.
Wow.
That's it.
Huge rip.
Yeah, this one's over.
Huge rip.
Underground Sea into Brainstorm. Man will take a look at a couple more cards. Set 2 on the top. You have to imagine Delver's flipping next turn.
Got a land coming down the pipeline, too.
Just what peels here? You know, we haven't covered a Legacy game like this in what feels like forever. Just players wastelanding the crap out of each other.
Yeah, that was great.
And this one goes to Steve, man. He's up a game here over Alex Bastecki. Sultai Delver out wastelands Grixis Delver. Steve rolling up his sleeves because things got a little bit dirty there.
Yep.
Oh, wasteland.
That was great.
To the sideboards we're going to go. Hopefully there's some ghost quarters in there. Maybe some more wastelands, some strip mines.
Blood moons.
Yeah, sure.
For the mutual locks.
Bastecki's got a Needle, a Dread of Night, a Sulfuric Vortex, an Ancient Grudge, a Dismember, Red Elemental Blast, Vendilion Click. They're going on 2 Pyroblast, 2 Surgical Extractions, and one that I don't think is going to play a role in this matchup, though it is good in Grixis Delver, 4 Cabal Therapies.
I don't think that's going to be coming in. I think Alex's sideboarding is going to be a little light for the matchup here. The Vendilion Clicks and the Red Blast, the Dismember. That's what I see coming in here.
Other side of things here for Steve. We saw a sideboard last round. We'll see it again with all those singletons. Grafdigger's Cage, Pithing Needle, Notion Thief, True Name Nemesis, Dread of Night, Dark Blast, Golgari Charm, Vendilion Click, Life from the Loam to go along with 2 Thoughtseizes, 2 Surgical Extractions, and 2 Flusterstorms.
Definitely wants the answers to the one-toughness creatures, and I think Golgari Charm and Dark Blast definitely come in. I think you bring in the extra copy of True Name Nemesis. It's great once it's in play, though a little bit expensive. I think this is a great matchup for Life from the Loam as well, as Steve can easily loop Wastelands and lock Alex out.
I love Steve's options.
I should not say easily, because Life from the Loam is predicated on Steve having 2 mana. No guarantees.
We saw Matt in his semifinal match. He couldn't get to 2 lands.
Yeah,
It
so
was too hard.
assuming you get to 2 mana, Life from the Loam, very, very powerful. Even if you're just rebuying your own lands that have been destroyed or your fetched lands that you've sacrificed, that's good enough. And if he has Wasteland involved, there's a ton of pressure on Alex to get the game over with soon, because eventually he is left with no lands.
It's funny because in this matchup, it's easy. A lot of people kind of shortcut and say Life from the Loam is Ancestral Recall. You draw 3 cards, but a lot of time people are just like, that's 3 lands. In this matchup, that's drawing 3 cards.
Exactly, because Steve also just has needs for more mana regardless of Wasteland implications. You know, multiple copies of True Name Nemesis, Liliana the Veil. He's got some expensive cards in this deck, so being able to get back fetch lands in certain spots, that'll be good for him just on its own. But Wasteland's the real prize, and that's what he's trying to play for. There's only 1 copy. It's not a primary game plan, but if it comes up, it's an easy way for Steve to coast to victory in certain spots.
The Star City Game Summer Sales we'll talk about now. It's available until 11 a.m. tomorrow morning. Then we'll have a new one for you. 15%, pardon me, off select promo basic lands. So if you're liking Unhinged, Unglued, some other crazy things, or even the Texas ones like from Zendikar, and we got new ones coming from Battle of Zendikar, this is the place to go.
Exactly, all sorts of promo lands, foreign, judge foils, arena promos, and so forth. Every day, 11 a.m. Eastern, new sale up on the website. Today it's promo basic lands. Check back tomorrow for a new sale.
Standard favorites on sale all month long as well, though August is almost over, so not a lot of time left for these awesome summer sales. StarCityGames.com for more information. Game number 2 about to be on the way. for you, we got to keep you happy, so we just need more Wastelands.
More Wastelands.
Yeah, just blow them out of the water.
I love the Delver mirror match when the person who loses has no permanents in play.
The flawless
the
victory.
flawless victory.
Yeah.
The ones that are damaged races and, someone gets killed by a bolt at the end of it, that's all well and good. But I like the matches where there was never any doubt. Even though there was some back and forth in the game, by the end of it, there was no doubt.
It leads me to believe you should be playing a little more Teamwork Delver, my friend.
Oh, I love that deck.
Yeah.
I would hop into a Legacy tournament right now with that one. Stifle and Wasteland, Nimble Mongoose, 1 a turn, not getting the threshold very fast.
Yeah. We'll get you a Ghost Quarter. Ghost Quarter, if you look at the matchup, Ghost Quarter is actual strip mine.
You could sideboard. I've seen Teamer Delver lists in the past that have had a Ghost Quarter or two. You could bring them in the sideboard.
Yeah. If you really want that effect, you got plenty of options because these players do not play basics.
Yeah.
And understandably so, you don't have room for that.
Yeah, I mean, Steven's mana base can barely handle the Wastelands that are in it to begin with cards like Abrupt Decay in the deck.
Yeah.
So you definitely can't afford to have islands and swamps and forests hanging around the deck, even though it would be nice. So you can go up to more Wasteland effects.
I know we talked on the pregame show here for this tournament as well. When we were talking about the Delver decks, we kind of grouped them under one large thing. Grixis Delver was an option that we thought a lot of players would take, but you felt that Sultai Delver was really well positioned this weekend.
Well, I thought there was going to be a fair amount of miracles.
Okay.
And I thought Abrupt Decay would be a good card. I really like Steve's build of the deck because with Dismember, he shores up one of the big weaknesses of the Abrupt Decay removal package, which is Gurmag Angler. It's got a clean answer game 1. And, you don't mind having a way to kill Stoneforge Mystic on the cheap. You don't mind a way of being able to kill Tarmogoyf on the cheap. But there is a threat in the format right now that's outside of Abrupt Decay range and is bigger than the threat Steve really brings to the table in Gurmag Angler. So having an answer to that threat, which isn't just about Gurmag Angler, but Dismember comes up all the time, any sort of creature matchup is going to be good to have. I think that addition to the deck is very, very sharp.
I like the build of his deck too, quite a bit actually. I'm not much of a Delver guy, but I like the Churning Nemesis. I always have felt I've liked what this deck does, but one of the things I actually like is a lot of people when they build Sultai Delver, they feel like you have to play 4 Abrupt Decays because that's the reason I'm playing green. Steve only has 2.
Yes.
And I actually like that because there are spots where Abrupt Decay is very good. There are also spots where Abrupt Decay is very bad.
And it's taxing on the mana. That's a big thing too.
So that's the thing I actually like the most about his deck list is that he's found some room for some unique cards like all those Dismembers. He doesn't have to play all these Abrupt Decays. Heck, even the one main deck copy of Disfigure. Disfigure's really good in this format.
Yes.
So.
Most threats that matter that you can kill with cheap removal are 2 toughness. Not a lot of the need for a 3 toughness effect. Sarah Avenger, a couple other threats, but Stoneforge Mystic, Deathbright Shaman, Delver of Secrets, Young Pyromancer, so on and so forth. All the creatures and elves that you can kill with cheap removal. It doesn't matter if it's 2 or 3.
I will say, the old Dredge part of me, I love me a Dark Blast, so seeing that in the sideboard.
Yeah, and it's nice in this matchup, too, the Dark Blast plus Loam situation, because they're both coming in, and if he's in a position where he's using one a lot, he will incidentally get to the second one a good percentage of the time.
And those help for dig through time.
Yes.
It all works together.
Light synergies, but if you're going to have something for one-toughness creatures, something that involves filling up your graveyard, that's great.
Bastecki will be on the play, though. He has mulliganed very quickly. He did not like the opening hand that he had one bit while Stephen Mann waits here patiently. He's got an opening hand that he does like.
And the mulligans are really brutal in this kind of matchup. And these decks do run resource light, but there's a lot of trading, and Wasteland is an easy way to lose a game after you've mulliganed, because you keep a lot of one land, ponder kind of hands when you're on 6. Totally fine to keep, but again, with all the Wastelands floating around, those hands can go south very easily.
Yeah, it's interesting because you can operate on a low base. You can operate pretty well on 5 cards, but they can also take you out of the game pretty quick.
Yeah. I mean, the deck is using fetch lands to kind of cheat on the land count a little bit. You have a lot of consistency with your mana, but the vulnerability there comes up a lot in the mirror match where you have 5 or 6 lands in the deck total that can produce colored mana.
Bastecki will keep. He'll start with Misty Rainforest yet again this game. He's down to 19. And now here's Delver of Secrets. So he'll play that off of Volcanic Island. Mann going to get prepared to take his turn. He's had the Dark Blast in this matchup a lot after sideboard. Picked up a copy of Force of Will. I think he might have the Dark Blast again.
And Alex's hand is really bad against this card. Young Pyromancer, Delver of Secrets, 2 Lightning Bolts.
That's about it. Oh, another Young Pyromancer. Nice.
Okay, well, all this one needs is Wasteland.
Yeah.
We can move on to game 3.
Patrick's got a dinner date, so he's ready to go.
Oh, yeah. Me and the folks.
Yeah.
Gonna get some pizza.
Talk about Wasteland.
Yeah.
Bastecki considering playing a Delver of Secrets here. Of course, the reason is because it actually locks Mann's draw step.
Yep. But
Well, in theory, it locks it. He doesn't have to dredge Dark Blast, but you think he would.
the problem here is that there's a lot of value for Steve to be gained by just milling stuff over. There's a Loam in here, and there's Dig Through Time in his deck as well. So, all things being equal, I would probably not cast the Delver, but I can also understand, well, you can't do nothing with it, and Steve just getting his draw steps is not great for you either.
Yeah, there's Dark Blast again. You saw the cards that were dredged: Force of Will, Trinity Nemesis, and Ponder. The unfortunate thing here for Alex, simply put, is that his hand lines up so bad against Dark Blast.
It's about as bad as it can get. It's bolts and 1-toughness creatures.
You know, if those creatures are Deathrite Shamans instead, the story's completely different.
Yeah.
There is a Polluted Delta. Here is a Tarmogoyf. And with creature, land, instant, and sorcery, we got a 4 or 5 Tarmogoyf already. Daze is the draw. And this might be a runaway here. And as you mentioned, if Steve finds a Wasteland, this game is over. Polluted Delta, the draw. Man, gonna start with the Brainstorm. Perhaps he's on the hunt for a Wasteland.
He's looking for something to do, and if it's Wasteland, that's the ideal.
And Dig Through Time is in there. So is Ponder, and I believe another Tarmogoyf.
Yeah, he's got great options for this turn.
Yep. Two cards going back. Brainstorm done resolving. Now Polluted Delta will be sacrificed. So there's a Tropical Island. I think we might see an attempt at Tarmogoyf here, though it may be dazed. Oh, well, never mind. Polluted Delta's the land to play, so now Tarmogoyf won't be dazed. And it's in there. And the first one is free to come into the red zone. An attack for 4 is going to put Bastecki down to 15. And I'm not entirely sure what string of draws Alex can find here, unfortunately for him. And the reason I say that is because his deck already has quite a bit of trouble against Tarmogoyf.
Lands aren't good here because all it does is unlock Young Pyromancers that have no value in the face of Dark Blast. And spells are no good because he can't cast them.
Force of Will removing a Ponder is going to take care of that Brainstorm. And Bastecki is not going to play anymore. Steve Mann is going to win game number 2 here over Alex Bastecki. Sultai Delver up 2 games to 0 over Grixis Delver. It's a tough start here for Alex. The draws have come together very poorly.
A couple mulligans there, and game 1 was sort of a Wasteland game. I mean, there was some back and forth there, and it looked in certain spots like Alex might actually be the one to Wasteland Steve out. And then that game, he could never get off the ground. And even if he could have gotten off the ground, it may not have been good.
There wasn't a good place to get to because of the Dark Blast. Him getting off the ground, as you mentioned, was getting a Young Pyromancer.
That was a hand where if he draws land number 2 and Steve doesn't have Dark Blast, he can at least play. No guarantee he wins. I mean, the hand's vulnerable to a lot of stuff, but Dark Blast was just, the game was over on turn 1, it felt like.
We'll take a look at the sideboards again here one more time to see what these players have access to. Now that, and I think Alex knew that the Dark Blast was coming in, and he expects Trinity Nemesis. I don't think very much changes for him. Again, going to the Cabal Therapy plan, it's just really not for this matchup.
No, I think it's tough to go there, and for that plan to work, you really have to be leaning on your Young Pyromancers surviving. And in the post-board games, with Steve having more removal spells, Dark Blast, and Golgari Charm, I think it's just hard for Alex to set up the spot where he's running wild with Cabal Therapy. Also in this matchup, you just need to be able to draw and cast anything and have it be productive. And Cabal Therapy is just going to whiff too often to be the type of card that Alex can leverage in this matchup.
Yeah, I guess, you ask yourself with Cabal Therapy, well, what am I going to name?
Right.
And a lot of the time, I don't even know what you would name with it.
And also the situation, because of Brainstorm and Ponder and other kind of shuffle effects and manipulation effects, the situation can change very, very quickly, where you therapy, you miss, a couple turns later, you can flash back to therapy and really not know what's going on in your opponent's hand. There's some matchups where their hand's fairly static. There's not a lot of manipulation going on, but not here. And that makes being able to use Cabal Therapy even more challenging.
Well, you see both players kind of going back to the drawing board a little bit here, but I think they're pretty happy with their configurations, just taking a look at each other's deck list. So while they do shuffle up and get ready for game number 3, we'll talk very quickly about Star City Games game night every week in August, though August is over on Monday, so not a lot of time to get Furious George.
Exactly. The September kit coming right down the pipeline here. The Kraken, every month we come out with new pins and tokens to give away at the store. Stores can set up game night however they want. Sanctioned, unsanctioned, just get players in the store for some fun and friendly magic. Too late to get set up for the September kit, but if you want to get signed up for October, get the Hippo, head over to starcitygames.com/game night for more information, or contact your Star City Games organized play representative.
And if you don't want to get signed up for October, who are you?
Right.
Look at that thing.
Look at that thing.
We've been complaining about this for over a year.
Right.
So if you don't sign up for October, you're indirectly...
It's a slight to us.
That's correct. So now that you've been guilt-tripped into signing up for October, StarCityGames.com/game night.
You're embarrassing your game store, and you're embarrassing yourself.
That's not in the script for the promo. You added that.
We don't have scripts.
That's not in the script for the promo.
We actually don't have scripts.
You just threw that in there.
Yeah.
Those are just your personal feelings on the matter. Okay, yeah. This is getting a little tough.
You have matches like this in tournaments. In some ways, it's better for it to not to happen now as opposed to round 5 when you're 2-2 or whatever. But that does not make it feel any better to be in this spot.
Yeah, it feels much worse in this spot. And with so much on the line here for Bastecki, another mulligan, another horrible time to be taking another one.
I mulliganed to 5 in game 3 of the first Grand Prix I top 8'd. Very disheartening. And a friend of mine explained to me, well, you could have mulliganed to 5 at all sorts of spots in the tournament early on where you wouldn't have ended up top 8'ing if that had happened. And I did not want to hear it at the time.
I understand.
But that was true.
Yeah.
It's still true. Still don't want to hear it.
It's 100% the truth. It's just the moment when it happens.
Yeah. I mean, to Alex's credit, it's not like he's given up in the games,
No.
The games themselves have been frustrating.
There was nothing he could do the last game.
Right.
The way Steve's hand lined up, there was literally nothing he could do. Dark Blast was the ultimate trump card to his draw. Now I think he might be convincing himself to keep this one because he doesn't want to take another mulligan. It doesn't look that. I mean, you see some lands. There's a wasteland over there, too. It doesn't look too bad.
A lot of people would not have it in them to pull the trigger on the 3rd mulligan in the match.
Yeah.
The fact that he mulliganed to 6 to start off this one, to me, indicates he's still connected to the game. He's not tilting off. Obviously, he's frustrated.
Here's a Delver.
And this is an acceptable 6-card hand. I see 2 more lands, a Lightning Bolt, a Young Pyromancer, and Dig Through Time. A little light on action. It's susceptible to flooding out, but an acceptable 6-card hand.
And we know that Steve's deck is pretty land light in the way that Joshua Taylor's able to take a couple of games off him. It's just going after his land. So we could see, Lightning Bolt your Delver, Wasteland you.
Yep. I don't know if Alex was thinking about 5 cards for show. This feels like a totally acceptable 6-card hand.
I think this is a keepable one. There's no Underground Sea.
There's early set to function with Lightning Bolt and Young Pyromancer, and Wasteland and Dig Through Time give the hand a high ceiling. Maybe Steven doesn't hit a second land drop and Wasteland blows him out. Maybe the game goes on for a long time. You can resolve your copy of Dig Through Time. So,
Young Pyro's here. Delver not flipping. Man with the Ponder, Tarmogoyf, a couple other options in hand. He'll come in with the Delver.
The one thing that Alex's hand is a little lacking in is velocity. It's going to take this hand a little while to get someplace powerful, but it's got enough to play with early on in the game and a couple of things to play towards.
Yeah, there's no pondering and brainstorming going on right now in his hand. You see Mann's going to sacrifice Misty Rainforest.
And that will take a consequence of that, besides, you know, he's vulnerable to just drawing poorly, is it's probably going to take him a little bit of time to get the dig through time online.
Perhaps Tarmogoyf time? Yep. Tarmogoyf a little small right now. Just a baby.
But a good spot for Lightning Bolt.
Yeah. So Bastecki wants to move forward this turn. There's a lot of game left to be played here.
And you can see why Steve was willing to play the Tarmogoyf here. I was actually wondering, well, this seems like a weird spot to cast Tarmogoyf. Why not ponder a few times and set up? He's got another Tarmogoyf in hand. He's also playing towards True Name Nemesis. So if Alex spends a couple turns here just killing stuff, that could open up the door for True Name Nemesis, and then Alex has no recourse.
He's on an offer. He's got to race it. That's how you beat it. Bastecki with a Wasteland in hand, Lightning Bolt. Looks like a copy of Pyroblast as well.
And Alex has got to give this some pause, too, because the second turn from Steve was really anemic. I mean, casting a Tarmogoyf into the jaws of a potential Lightning Bolt is not a great second turn.
Not setting up your Delver.
Right.
You know. There's Lightning Bolt to go after Tarmogoyf. That'll trigger Young Pyromancer. Now, if you're Alex, you're probably thinking, what is he trying to lead me into?
Exactly.
Here comes Young Pyromancer.
I think another Tarmogoyf is a reasonable guess. And if that's the sense Alex gets, he might go after Tropical Island.
That's what he's going to do. Our first Wasteland of the game.
Hopefully not our last.
Steve will take a look at the top card here for Delver. It is not flipping. It is a Tropical Island. Looks like he's going to try for Tarmogoyf yet again. This one looks like it's in there. This time it'll be a 3-4. Can't Lightning Bolt that one. Now Mann will pass the turn back because that Delver's not coming into the red zone. Looks like Gurmag Angler the draw.
Perhaps the worst draw on the deck.
Not great right now.
Dig Through Time's already taxing the graveyard. It doesn't trigger Young Pyromancer.
Bastecki with Misty Rainforest.
Now with 3 cards in the graveyard, he cannot dig this turn.
Yep.
Even Pyroblast he can cast, but that's net neutral because it's 1 mana to Pyroblast and it discounts 1 off the delve. So he only has 7 effective mana for the purposes of Dig Through Time this turn. The question he has to ask himself now is he playing for Dig Through Time or Gurmag Angler?
Can't do both. At least at this stage of the game.
Leading off with Dig Through Time makes it more likely that you get to Gurmag Angler somewhere else down the line rather than doing it vice versa.
Yeah, but you might just want the big dummy in play.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, here's Pyroblast to go after Delver, trigger Young Pyromancer, so he's going to take a 3rd line. Not going to worry about Dig or Angler just yet. Just going to get Delver off the table.
But I think Steve does have another land in hand and True Name Nemesis. And he's given Alex plenty of opportunities to cast Daze. Tapped out for Tarmogoyf on turn 2, tapped out for Tarmogoyf on turn 3. I think there's a reasonable chance that if Steve has both True Name Nemesis and the 3rd land, he's just going to drop into play.
And dare him to have an answer?
Alex
dare him to have a specific answer.
Alex has only got 3 red blasts in the list.
Yep.
He's just played 1.
And now he's tapped out. Tarmogoyf's going to fall down to a 2-3 because of delving. But I could certainly see Steve just, as you mentioned, land, true name, though he did draw Thoughtseize for the turn. So that might change his plan a little bit.
I don't know. I mean, you basically you can only rationalize that play if you think he drew exactly last turn. And if you don't have another land in your hand, then by doing this play, you could lose to Wasteland next turn and just be short on the mana cast True Name Nemesis. To me, it seems like an incredibly risk-adverse play to not cast True Name Nemesis in the spot unless Steve has some awesome turn. You know, if he had something like Golgari Charm Dismember, let's say, where he clears out Alex's board, that's a different argument. But if he's just looking at pondering this turn or something else in that space, I think he's better going up for the knockout punch and just trying to resolve True Name Nemesis.
That's exactly what he's going to try to do. And Bastecki has Dig Through Time in hand, which is not going to get the job done. So True Name Nemesis will have protection from Alex Bastecki. And now it gets very hard for Alex to win.
You know, there's still some hope. If he can string together a bunch of cantrips in a row, go wide with Young Pyromancer. But if Young Pyromancer dies, or Alex just fails to find a string of Gitaxian Pro, Ponder, Brainstorm type of sequences very, very soon, there may be no coming back from this. His list cannot remove this card once it is on the table. He has Red Blast to stop it on the stack, but when it's in play, it's in play. And the problem is, if Alex makes any sort of alpha strike here involving the Young Pyromancer, that's the block Steve makes. Just puts True Name Nemesis in front of Young Pyromancer, shuts the door on Alex's ability to go wide, and at that point, it's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't make any sort of concerted effort to attack here, where's the game going?
Well, he's attacking. But I don't know how far this gets him.
If the draw step was exactly Lightning Bolt, this attack is justifiable because most likely scenario, Tarmogoyf goes in front of one of the tokens. You can finish off the Tarmogoyf, get in 6 points of damage, or 1 in the event that Steve just decides to put True Name in front of the Gurmag Angler, which is also a possibility. But assuming that Steve is willing to tender the Tarmogoyf as a blocker, then you get it off the table. If Alex didn't draw Lightning Bolt, I'm not sure what this is about.
Alex might feel as though he needs maybe Steve to make a mistake here.
Yeah. The problem is this is a hard attack. It's hard to make a bluff attack in this spot because Steve already has great equity on his blocks by having True Name Nemesis in play.
Nothing can go wrong with
that
one.
It's a tough, really tough spot to try to bluff here.
The double block.
This is a really savvy block from Steve.
Yeah.
Heads up block here because Steve can sense that it had to be Lightning Bolt. That's the only draw that makes any sense in this sort of spot. And so by doing this now, instead of having True Name Nemesis have to be in front of Gurmag Angler and Alex doing whatever he's going to do with the tokens, now it's just True Name Nemesis against your board. Every attack that Alex makes involves losing threats. So I love Steve's position there of getting the Angler off the board. It just makes the True Name Nemesis that much harder to attack through.
The draw for the turn for Alex, by the way, it was Lightning Bolt.
Great block by Steve. Great block.
Ponder here for Mann. He's going to take a look at the top 3. We'll see if he wants to keep those cards or not. Dig Through Time, Ponder in hand already as well. He's looking at a Brainstorm among the other options. And it looks like he'll keep it. So Ponder's done resolving. Working his way towards Dig. Thoughtseize in the grip.
I'm not sure if Steve really has much interest in casting a Thoughtseize at this stage. Because if you assume that Alex's hand does involve Lightning Bolt, he casts Lightning Bolt, you go to 11. Thoughtseize resolves, you go to 9. He's got a wide board. Things can go wrong from here.
Here's a Delver. Now here's a Ponder.
I much prefer this approach from Steve. I think a lot of people there are would be in the habit of just casting Thoughtseize. Your opponent's got 2 cards in hand, not quite sure what's going on, but I think Steve can sense that it's probably Lightning Bolt and something not very good based on the last 2 turns, which is exactly what the hand is. And he doesn't want to go to 9, facing down a bunch of 1/1 tokens when he's trying to manage things with True Name Nemesis.
So he's going to shuffle with Ponder, so he doesn't like the cards that he sees. Mystery card coming. We're going to get a Lightning Bolt on the end step, I believe. Take care of the Delver. Yep. That'll trigger Young Pyromancer. This is all about going wide.
Still not hopeless here for Alex if he's stringing together a bunch of cantrips in a row.
He'll attack here for 3. True Name Nemesis will block 1. 2 damage will come through. Man down to 12. The follow-up is a Delver of Secrets.
Delver is not bad here.
Yep. Tarmogoyf the draw. Very good one there for Man. Gotta keep in mind, though, Man has a Dig Through Time in his hand.
Yes.
And he's got a lot of cards in his graveyard, too. So.
I think he needs to consider digging this turn. I think if he's doing this... So I guess he's digging with the intent here of the worst case scenario, I'll play a land and a Tarmogoyf. What this does take off the table is if he leaves up the Underground Sea, it gives him the opportunity to dig into Dark Blast, and Dark Blast is going to be really hard to beat in this spot.
Could be working overtime.
He still could potentially get into Dark Blast plus a land.
Golgari Charm plus a land. I know that Charm may not look great on this particular board because you have to lose his True Name Nemesis, but if I have to lose my True Name Nemesis in exchange for all that stuff, I'm probably okay with that. That's how I feel personally.
I think that Steve would probably prefer to hold tight on that if he had to. It's definitely a good, in case of emergency, break glass sort of scenario. But for now, Alex is not making a ton of progress on the ground.
Well, Steve's found the cards he's happy with. There's Wasteland. Here comes Tarmogoyf. And I think we'll see him hold tight some more. Not time to turn the corner just yet.
No, I think he can wait one more turn. There it is.
Yep, Delver gonna flip.
I mean, Brainstorm's really important here for Alex.
Yeah.
He's got Young Pyromancer in play. He needs to get a lot out of that to be able to go around the blocker Steve has on the ground. He's got Dig Through Time in his hand he's playing towards. He needs to fill up the graveyard.
Brainstorm may have been the best draw.
He just needs cantrips in the worst way.
It's a Brainstorm. It's a trigger for Young Pyromancer. 3 cards coming, 2 will go back. We already know Dig Through Time is in hand. Looks like Delver's being added to hand. Cataxian Probe, Flooded Strand.
Alex is starting to string something together here. Still a lot of work to do.
Looks like a couple of cards ready to go back. You mentioned he is trying to string some things together, though. A little unsure of how he wants to set it up. But Brainstorm is done resolving. We're going to have a Delver here in just a moment. Steve it doesn't seem like Steve's in great shape right now.
He's still got a lot of big draws, and I know he has Abrupt Decay in hand. So we can at least answer one of the Insectile Aberrations. But yep, going over the top here, I mean, Alex has a pretty good balance going on right now. He's got pressure in the air, and he's got action on the ground going wide. And he needs both of those things.
I just think he's done a really nice job of clawing himself back into the game.
Yes.
For what looked to be a pretty ugly game, and he certainly wasn't happy about having to mulligan down to 6. He has regained himself, playing a good game, and he's given himself the best chance to win. Now, True Name's coming in.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I think Steve feels like Alex can't really do much in the way of attacking on the ground. It doesn't move the equation that much, having 3 blockers back versus 2, and Steve also needs to get a move on a little bit here.
Yep.
Also, by leaving only 2 blockers back, it may entice Alex into making a dangerous attack. He may, for example, put the young Pyromancer into the attack, and then that's really, really good.
Ataxian Probe going to be hard cast. There'll be a trigger there from young Pyromancer. We'll get to see the hand here of Daze, of Thoughtseize, and of Abrupt Decay. Abrupt Decay, the most important of the bunch. New card coming. Flooded Strand that he knew about. Getting closer to dig through time. There's that Strand. Perhaps here come those beatdowns. Looks like Bastecki is deciding how much he wants to attack with. I foresee an Abrupt Decay in our future.
The issue with attacking with anything beyond the Insight Tile Aberrations is that Steve stays above 3, so it's still probably a 2-turn clock.
Doesn't change much.
And he loses the young Pyromancer, and then, Steve draws Abrupt Decay or just any removal spell for the other Insight Tile Aberration, and then Alex is in trouble.
Bastecki gonna sacrifice that Flooded Strand. There's an Underground Sea. Now he actually gets the opportunity to resolve Dig Through Time because he's got 6 cards in the graveyard because that Delver died.
Yeah, he can pay for the days that he knows that's in Steve's hand.
Yep. So Bastecki's going to get to take a look at the top 7. Take 2 with him. Can't forget about that young Pyromancer trigger as well. He has brought in Cabal Therapy. We weren't sure if he was going to do that, but it looks as though he has.
Though given the number of cards he's looked and how many post-board games we've played thus far, I'd be surprised if he had the full 4 in.
See what 2 cards Bastecki wants to take right now. Daze looks like a selection. Wow.
I'm not sure what Daze cuts off Steve from at this stage of the game. The biggest concern for Alex at this point is probably Golgari Charm.
Yeah.
And Steve can pay for that.
Well, I think he did take Daze for that dig.
Okay.
Looks like Red Elemental Blast and Daze. Steve will draw a copy of Wasteland. That doesn't help very much. And taking a look at things right now, if Alex Bastecki untaps and attacks with everything, he would win.
Yeah, Steve can't even play the land because that just leaves him dead on board.
It gives away the information. No, it looks like he might be playing it. Hey, he just has to pass the turn back.
He's dead on board if he plays it.
Yeah. Bastecki will draw. Will he attack with everything is the question. Well, this makes it really easy that the answer is yes. Yep, and that is going to do it. Alex Bastecki is going to win game number 3 here against Steve Mann. Grixis Delver, Sultai Delver getting ready for another one. Bastecki looked a little tilted during that mulligan this game, but he regained himself.
Yeah, hung on. He mulliganed into a solid 6-card hand.
Yeah.
And Steve didn't really blow him out of the water. Steve was able to resolve True Name Nemesis, but Alex had the right mixture of stuff going on there. Young Pyromancer to get around it, some Delver of Secrets attacking in the air. Steve had a couple ineffective cards in his hand, like Daze and Thoughtseize, and Alex was able to get it done.
Well, these players are going to get ready here for game number 4 of the finals of our Season 3 Invitational. Bastecki still with his back up against the wall, and Mann will be on the play, so it's not going to be easy for him. But while they do get ready to do that, we will take a look at our Season 4 schedule here on the Open Series. Next week, it truly fires away in Cincinnati.
Yeah, Cincinnati for a Modern Open Series event. After that, we go to Worcester, Milwaukee, and Indianapolis for Standard Open Series events. After that, we head to Atlanta for Standard, Legacy in St. Louis, Modern in Dallas, Standard back in Philadelphia. After that, Grand Prix Atlanta, which will be sealed. We'll have more information about that as we get closer to the event. Standard in KC, Legacy back here in New Jersey, a Standard Open Series event in Denver, and then the Season 4 Invitational in Las Vegas, Nevada. Standard and Modern as the Invitational formats with a 2-day $20,000 Standard Open Series event, December 11th through the 13th. And a week after that, the Players Championship, Roanoke, Virginia, Star City Games, headquarters, December 19th and the 20th.
Looking forward to that tournament and all of those tournaments. And of course, any main event that you do sign up for here on Season 4, it's the Hoppin' a Rabbit Master, giving the beatdowns.
Yep, free with admission to any of our 2-day $20,000 Open Series event. Not limited to the first X people who register. Don't send it to you after the fact. Get it on site, free of charge.
And the first ones we're actually giving out this weekend because we did have an Open Series main event. This does kick off Season 4 as we end Season 3 and start Season 4 on our Invitational weekend. So we've actually got a standard main event taking place this weekend. Players like Chris Anderson and Kevin Jones made the top 8 there.
I wandered by the finals of the event that was going on as you and Matthias were covering the semifinals. Looked like Jeskai versus Mono Red squaring off.
Was that Kevin Jones playing Jeskai?
It was not.
Wow, okay. Well, I know that he was because...
Yes, he was in the top 8.
Because it's Kevin, so...
But no, it was not.
Jeskai looking to be pretty well positioned in Standard right now. People giving it a try. Kevin Jones always giving it a try. He doesn't count.
A good mixture of answers to Hangerback Walker. You have some removal that exiles. You can play some cheap creatures on the ground that don't have to attack to be effective. You have a wide array of flyers to choose from.
Can't forget about the addition, of course, of Jace Vryn's Prodigy to that deck, too.
Huge addition.
Yeah.
Besides, between that card and Soulfire Grandmaster, what I like about the deck is you get to do something on turn 2 that's proactive, but it's not just some Seeker of the Way where if your opponent plays Hangerback Walker, you're looking at making a bad trade. They're all cards with utility. If you draw them on turn 7, they're cards that do something even if you can't attack on the ground. And given where Standard is right now with Fleecemane Lions and Hangerback Walkers all over the place, I think your 2-drop selection needs to be like that.
Good early, good late.
Yep.
That's what you're looking for.
Doesn't have to attack to be good.
Steve Mann going to be on the play here for game number 4. He wants to head back to the Players' Championship quite badly. We know that. He had a great run at it last year. Of course, Alex Bastecki, the unknown here, he wants to go as well. Down 2-1 right now. And with Mann on the play and what looks to be a positive matchup, we'll see if Steve Mann can close it out here. I mean, he barely beat Josh Taylor last round.
And had to feel like he was really on the brink there of getting this done when he resolved that True Name Nemesis. He had True Name Nemesis, he had stuff left in his hand, including cantrips. Looked like a good position, but he could never find an answer for Young Pyromancer, and Alex, given enough time, was able to just create a board wide enough on top of his Delver of Secrets that flipped and then flew over, where he was able to push through 20.
Young Pyro, even though Steve has quite a few answers to it, if he doesn't have an answer to it, it just runs crazy.
Yep.
That's just how the thing works. It's a heck of a card. Bastecki going to give his sideboard one last look, make sure he's happy, and he is. So these players will shuffle up. And then Mann will look at his opening hand and be on the play. Again, as we mentioned, next weekend, we are in Cincinnati. Modern action again.
Yep.
Love me some Modern, so I'm really looking forward to that tournament. Last time, we saw Merfolk make the finals. We saw a healthy amount of diversity. At the end of the day, it was Joe Herrera with Jund. The old modern boogeyman get the job done.
Not really a boogeyman anymore. Just another person in the room.
Now you say that, and then it'll win again.
Sure. Saying it's not. When people talk about the actionable decks of the format, the impressive decks, right now no one's talking about Jund.
Right now.
Right now.
Give it a few weeks. Bastecki thinking mulligan again, perhaps?
Make it 4-4 so far.
Yeah. Alex is probably thinking, can't I just keep 7 cards for once?
You got a good 6-card hand last game and won in spite of a resolved True Name Nemesis.
All right, he's going to keep. Blue to Delta is where Mann will start. There's a tropical island. And now here's a Deathrite Shaman. A great start. Bastecki does have Force of Will in hand, so perhaps he's casting it, and he is. He'll remove a taxi and probe to that. He does not want Deathrite Shaman on the table. Leads you to believe he doesn't have an answer to it. Ooh, Wasteland.
Oh.
Attack. Oh, I like it. Gotta see what he's working with.
What's up?
You know the answer. He's got another Deathrite Shaman, a Tarmogoyf, a Thoughtseize, a Daze, and a Wasteland.
I am really surprised that Steve did not daze back on that Force of Will.
I am a little too. I
guess he really wanted to push through Tarmogoyf, but that line of play is very vulnerable to Wasteland.
Yeah. Man, a Delver of Secrets. There's a Wasteland. Pass the turn back. Because when he's Force of Willing your Deathrite Shaman, that's kind of a loud indicator that he doesn't have a Lightning Bolt or a Fork Bolt.
Right.
He's willing to use 2 cards to get rid of it. Man will draw. That's a Tarmogoyf. He's in some serious trouble now. Now he can fire off Wasteland and cut Bastecki off, but then he's 1 step further away from Tarmogoyf.
Yeah.
So now he's got a real decision to make. Not dazing there. It feels like an error to me.
I mean, I understand, you know, the marquee threat here against a deck with bolts is trying to get the Tarmogoyf onto the table. So in that sense, I get it. But the line of play that Steve took was extremely vulnerable to Wasteland.
Delver's flipping, revealed Gataxian probe in for 3. Comes Bastecki. There's the probe, see the hand, nothing doing. Delver Deathrite, Thoughtseize, double Tarmogoyf Daze. Bastecki will scribble it all down. After he does record this information, of course, he'll get to draw a card as it is a cantrip. And go from there. And man, you can see his hand. He doesn't even have an answer to Delver.
Yeah.
Even if he does draw lands. And lands don't appear to be a problem here for Alex Bastecki. Pardon me, I take it back.
You forgot what you were watching.
Yep. I forgot I was watching Legacy and Delvermere. In we go. 1 permanent.
Not 1 permanent, 100% of, 50% of the permanents.
There we go. Misty Rainforest, the draw.
Get 1 spell, make it count.
Yeah. Here comes Delver. Oh man, it might be Gurmag time. Uh-oh. If it's Gurmag time, this game is over if that resolves. You said make it count.
Yep. That one counts.
That's man will draw a card. Scalding Tarn, a little late. Here it is.
He can cast Tarmogoyf, but it's basically just on chump blocking duty.
Yep.
He's not quite dead if he cracks the fetch land. Alex is only coming across for 8 next turn. And I think the only removal spell he has in his deck that touches Gurmag Angler is Dismember. That's not really an option.
Dismember is very far off the table.
Yes.
So now Mann's going to figure out how he wants to activate this Scalding Tarn, because he can't get all 3 colors of mana, of course. So it's either Tropical Island or Underground Sea. I think it's probably Tropical Island for Tarmogoyf. And truth be told, I'm just not sure S-Man even has a way out of this.
Well, it definitely has to involve 2 spells in 1 turn. And if that's the case, he may have to just cast Deathrite Shaman this turn rather than Tarmogoyf. Tarmogoyf's a dead end. He just chump blocks either this turn or next, and that's it.
Oh, there is Deathrite Shaman. So he can potentially get the 4 mana next turn and then do something there.
Yeah.
And see, that assumes that Bastecki has nothing else to do on his end.
For sure. But I think that Tarmogoyf is just that's a concession. That makes no progress here, so.
There's Scalding Tarn. Seeing Bastecki's hand, he's going to Pyroblast, Deathrite Shaman, a bunch of other things to do. Deathrite Shaman can give him the reach that he's looking for to close it out. We'll go with a Ponder here. And Steve, I can't counter it. Can't do much about it.
Yep.
Bastecki has free reign right now to do what he wants, find what he's looking for, and try to close this one out.
If I'm Alex, I just like dumping more things into play. Whatever creatures you can cast, just cast.
Beatdowns. Yeah, like if I can play Deathrite Shaman this turn, I will, because what's the consequence?
Right. And the only way you're going to get punished here is days, and you know Steve is clearly desperate for mana, so having to pick up his Underground Sea is a huge cost.
Bastecki considering playing that Deathrite Shaman. I think it's completely free to do so, no punishment. Again, there's no Terminus coming off the top of this deck. Toxic Deluge doesn't have life to pay.
Yep.
You know, there's no Wrath effect to worry about that can get man out of the situation. Also, you know his deck list. You know what he's working with, all 75. So that's the land he's going to go get, it appears. But he wants to make sure he's happy with his selection.
I think he's looking for Underground Sea and can't find it.
That's awkward.
I mean, he looked there multiple times, and you'd ideally like to get a sea so you have 2 sources of black mana to activate the Deathrite in case something gets wastelanded.
Well, he only has 2 in his deck. And Wasteland has been activated by Steve,
sure.
so
there
makes
you go.
sense.
There you go.
Steve is going to concede the game. So Alex Bastecki was down 0-2, was mulliganing into Oblivion, was getting frustrated, and now he's got a little pep in his step.
Yeah.
A wise friend once said, that's why they give you 5.
Exactly. Well, they usually don't.
Well, that's why they give you 5 right now.
Rallying back here. Steve taking a gamble there by not dancing on the Force of Will. Never recovered from the Wasteland.
Yeah.
Never recovered.
This only goes badly if he has, oh no. Oh, he does have Wasteland.
And I gotta say, I am not a fan of these Thoughtseizes that are in Steve's deck.
I am not a big fan either. I'm really not.
Alex is, the deck's the pieces are pretty interchangeable. There are some high impact cards like Gurmag Angler and Dig Through Time, but for the most part, the cards are interchangeable. You're often going to be without black mana because of Wastelands. And there's a very short shelf life for Thoughtseize to be good.
Well, PAX unveiled a bit of fun yesterday about Battle for Zendikar, and if it's ready for pre-order, it ships October 2nd. StarCityGames.com/BFZ for more information. Just so that you're all aware, we are pre-selling all non-foil Battle for Zendikar singles, so you can find out more information about that on the Star City Games Twitter and Facebook page, or of course head over to StarCityGames.com. As look, everyone's interested and excited about this set. We are too. StarCityGames.com/BFZ for more information about that.
Yeah, we'll get more and more of it coming down the pipeline as more and more of it spoiled, but pre-orders are going to be available. Ship out October the 2nd.
That means, sweet, the loot thing that they're doing with the lands and stuff, because they did it with the first Zendikar.
Yep.
With I think it was just kind of old cards like power and stuff.
Yeah, there was some. I was at a local game store. I think someone busted a moat, and there was stuff like that. Mox's Black Lotus and just old cards from Arabian Nights, Legends, Antiquities, and so forth.
And now they're doing like the textless dual lands and fetch lands and
Yep.
stuff like that. It looks like. Don't have all of the details because I haven't got to read over all the PAX information just yet, but I mean, it looks really cool. They say this a lot, but this could be the best-selling set in Magic history. I mean, there's a lot of excitement.
And I think that this is a pretty good model that they're doing right now. They want to reprint some number of cards for modern level play.
Yeah.
But that comes with some. Now, you want people playing the format. You don't want the staples to be too expensive. But there are people that do own the cards, and it's rough when someone's polluted delta goes from $60 to $20 overnight. Now, it's still net positive for the game and for sales for them to do that, but it's not zero cost. But things like this, where they generate a lot of excitement, get a couple more lands into circulation, but do it in such a way where, it's not really costing anyone anything, that's a pretty sweet way to do it. It's all upside, and I'm pretty sure Wizards are going to try to figure out more ways to do stuff like this.
Think about how busy those pre-releases are going to be.
Engenders a lot of goodwill, generates a lot of excitement, doesn't cost anyone anything.
See,
all upside.
Now I'm thinking of the people who have great-looking decks, the Jerry Thompsons of the world, but the person on top of my mind right now, Eli Cassis.
Yep.
He's loving this.
Yeah, he can't wait.
He wants to get him some textless duels and textless fetch lands because he loves a beautiful-looking deck. He also made the top 8 of our Standard Open, by the way.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Notable legacy player, but
I was going to say,
overall, very good Magic player.
not a player that people necessarily associate with Standard.
Yep.
Much more known for his Eternal work.
But when you can game, you can game. Joe Lissette too, right?
Yeah.
More Standard Open wins than Legacy Open wins.
The Joe Lissette thing is just ridiculous at this point. 4 Standard Open wins, I believe, is the number.
To 1 Legacy Open win. Yeah. It's just nonsense. Steve Mann, he's got a Legacy Open win as well. Happened in March of last year. Got the job done with Teamer Delver in Atlanta during a Legacy Open. I know because it was on my birthday when I tore the ligament in my foot. A great day to be alive.
Yep.
And he is 1 win away here from going back to the Players' Championship. But for Alex Bastecki, you can say the same thing. Less accomplished of the two, but he has bounced back very nicely here in these last 2 games.
Yep. Was down 0-2 mulligan game 3. Didn't seem thrilled about his hand. Game 4 also, Steve's on the play. Opens up with a land of Deathrite Shaman, which Alex casts Force of Will on. And in that moment, I feel like Steve's a huge favorite. Of course there's a lot of game to play and so forth, but even that initial exchange is just very, very good for Steve. But no Deathrite Shaman, his 1 land that could reduce color mana got blown up, and that was it.
It's easy to get frustrated. The first 2 games just don't go your way. You kind of lose in pretty quick fashion. Don't really get to do your thing, interact with your opponent. And then you're mulligan in game 3, and you really did see it on his face, but was able to get game 3, won game 4 pretty comfortably. And now, here we are, 1 game for it all. Just the way it should be. So Steve Mann, Alex Bastecki. And for Alex to get Steve to be able to smile, he's got to be funny.
Yeah.
Being able to get anything out of Steve Mann, that's pretty tough to do. Just saying.
I mean, when your opponent's still keeping his spirits up when he's down 0-2 and mulliganing, hard not to play around a little bit.
That's true. Mann will take a look. He'll be on the play here after all. Looks like he's going to keep. Bastecki doing something he's familiar with.
Yep.
Taking a mulligan.
No hesitation there either.
No.
I mean, the other mulligans, there was a lot more contemplation. This one went right back.
That one just must have been a real stinker. So down to 6, he's going to go. Now, of course, whoever wins this match is going to the Players' Championship with these 5 other players. That's Jim Davis, Jacob Wilson. You think about Season 2, you think about Leon Trozzi, the champion, Kevin Jones, the season points winner, and then the defending champion, Brad Nelson. We got to update the graphic now, too, because Danny Jessup's going.
Yeah, filling it out a little bit here.
Yeah.
Danny Jessup and the winner of this match. That gets us to 7. There's a Season 4 Invitational left. There's some at-large bids. Going to start taking shape next weekend in Cincinnati.
We're looking forward to it. Players' Championship, December 19th and the 20th. 16 players, $50,000 at the Star City Game Center. Star-studded field. Bastecki's going to keep his hand. Let's play game number 5 for it all, shall we? Flooded Strand to start here for Mann. Maybe a taxi and probe here for Bastecki. A little unsure of himself on those 6 cards.
Wasteland plus Misty.
Does have Deathrite Shaman too.
Now he has a young Pyromancer in his hand. So I think that's the reason he's contemplating not using this Cataxian probe straight away.
Wants to get a little value.
Yeah.
He's got to figure out what land he wants to search up. Let's go with an Underground Sea. You see Mann's hand, Abrupt Decay, Force of Will. Here's Deathrite Shaman. He's got the answer for it. Mann will take a draw step. Second turn of the game. Underground Sea very quickly. Flooded Strand down to 19. I think we got a Tropical Island and Abrupt Decay on the way.
Yep, that's not one Alex jumping ahead on mana. More 1-for-1 trades you can generate with Alex already on 6 cards. The better.
There is Decay. Back to Bastecki we're going to go. You mentioned the young Pyromancer in hand. We know about the Wasteland too. Picked up a copy of Delver's Secrets.
Does not have red mana. Can play one of his 1-drops and Wasteland. And now I think is a moment for Alex to Cataxian Probe because he wants to know what to do with this Wasteland.
Which road to take?
Maybe he holds it if Steve's hand is a bunch of lands. If there's a Trop or an Underground Sea, he can hit the other one.
Well, here's Deathrite Shaman plus Wasteland. Playing the Wasteland first, playing around Days. Steve's hand does have a Force of Will, Dismember, Abrupt Decay over there. Dig Through Time too, which is, you have to imagine, the big payoff.
Now, what's tough here for Steve is there's no guarantee he gets an Abrupt Decay. I guess with the Dismember in hand, he can just allow this resolve, but you know, he was thinking of there because what if Alex Wastelands me and my Abrupt Decay is no good?
Days the draw. We've talked many times, 18 lands in this deck.
Yep.
And you fetch most of them out. So you are playing very, very few lands here. To have mana issues in Sultai Delver with this few lands is not very surprising.
So there's a couple lines here. Steve can either brainstorm or dismember. The risk with the brainstorm here is if he does not find a land, Alex gets to go into the turn with Deathrite Shaman available. The reason that Steve is doing this is because he has Force of Will in hand. So even in the worst case scenario where he doesn't find a land, he can Force of Will whatever Alex's play is, untap and then dismember the Deathrite Shaman. The high upside here is if he finds a land, then he gets to play a land and dismember or some other one-mana play, and then he's in really, really good shape.
Well, things are going to get hard for here for Mann because he did find 2 lands and a Deathrite Shaman. So now the big question is, what do I put back? What do I shuffle away? Do I even shuffle anything away now? How do I resolve this brainstorm? The toughest card to resolve in Legacy. And there's no clear-cut answer.
Yeah, it looks like he's settling on keeping just the Delta.
And Daze is going to go away. Brainstorm done resolving. Now he'll play the Delta. Will he sacrifice? You see his hand with Dismember, Deathrite Shaman, Abrupt Decay, Force of Will, Dig Through Time. It's a really good hand.
Yeah, it's possible that this Dismember is on Gurmag Angler detail. That Steve will simply cast his own Deathrite Shaman this turn. Maybe Abrupt Decay, Alex's maybe not. But with Force of Will in hand, there is an incentive to just say, okay, well, this can also answer Gurmag Angler, and I just want to be as mana efficient as possible while containing Alex's board.
And there's Deathrite. Pass the turn back over to Bastecki. Bastecki will draw. Remember, he's never fired off that probe.
Yeah, he's been waiting for as long as possible to try to get this with us Young Pyromancer. I think that if he goes for Young Pyromancer, though, this turn is going to be a dead end. It's just going to hit Force of Will. And the risk there is then Alex misses his land drop because he has no lands in his hand, and then Steve can be very aggressive going after the mana.
He's going to start with the probe. Force Will, Dig Through Time, Dismember, Abrupt Decay. Those are the 4 cards S-Man's working with. Keep in mind, he did shuffle after the Brainstorm, so the top card of his deck is a mystery. Bastecki will draw.
And that hand is pretty bad news for Alex because he can't just fire off one of his spells because it can get countered. And if he plays Cabal Therapy, that's basically his whole turn, and then his Deathrite Shaman gets killed. Really good mixture of cards there in that spot.
Yeah. There's Brainstorm. Ah, the classic card I always want to counter.
I think Steve might be agreeing with you.
It's just a tough card to counter right now, though. If he Force of Will's removing Dig Through Time, Alex can take the last 2 cards in his hand with Cabal Therapy. And then Steve is left with a Deathrite Shaman and 2 lands, and that's, yeah, well.
I mean, Alex has only got 1 land.
Yeah. And if you're able to peel off a Wasteland or something, you're doing good. You peel Dig Through Time, Tarmogoyf. I mean, a lot of good draws, a lot of bad ones, too. All right. Steve going to counter it. Now, if I'm Bastecki, I'm therapying the rest of his stuff. Check the sheet of paper real quick. Make sure you don't get this wrong.
Yeah.
That would be bad. Left with a Dismember. Maybe I'm playing it too aggressively. Well, I want to knock his hand out, and I guess we'll go peel for peel.
Well, I think you can probably say go from here because you want Steve to spend some mana and some life killing your Deathrite Shaman.
Yeah.
Which is probably what's going to happen with that Dismember regardless. Especially if you're Alex, you miss a land drop here, he's definitely casting it on your Deathrite Shaman, so you might as well make him take the damage.
Okay, fair enough. And have to use the mana.
Right.
Sure, in case you draw something like True Nemesis. But I guess that would be bad news anyway. So, let's see what Mann does draw. Dark Blast.
Dark Blast is really good here
I
for
think
Steve.
that's really good.
Alex is playing towards Young Pyromancer and Delver of Secrets as his payouts.
So I think I like maybe a Dismember for 2 mana here.
Well, if I'm Steve, there is always an argument to be going after the graveyard here because Alex has those delve spells.
Okay. That does make sense. You do have to worry about the Angler. You got to worry about Dig. You can just go after a land, take that out of his graveyard. That'll produce your mana for Dark Blast for the turn. So that's not so bad. But he's just going to pass the turn back, not cast anything. Delver of Secrets the draw.
So he gets to lock up Alex's Deathrite Shaman this way.
Very true.
And Steve can start going to work on Alex's graveyard, which is very good for him in this spot.
Alex wants to remove a land. Very deliberate about it, too. I think Steve wants to remove that land, too. Maybe he'll let him have. Why? He's going to let him have it. There's a Delver. Here's a Delver. This, I think, is going to be a really good turn for Steve.
Yeah.
Steve says, how many cards do you have left? Alex says 2. It's Young Pyromancer and Dig Through Time. The interesting thing here is Dismember is being pulled in a lot of different directions. You can tell Steve wants to save it for the Angler.
Yes.
If one ever does come along.
The issue that I have with that line of play is there's still a Cabal Therapy in Alex's graveyard. If he ever finds an Angler, he can just take the Dismember out of your hand and clear the path.
Sure.
So I think there's an argument for just kind of casting your stuff here.
There's Dark Blast. There goes a Delver. I think we're going to see him dredge now. I also like just removing a land here.
Yeah, just get stuff out of Alex's graveyard,
Yep.
make dredging as expensive as possible.
He'll dredge. He would lose an Underground Sea, a Tarmogoyf, and a Wasteland.
Wasteland is important. That means that if Steve finds a loam here, he can lock the game up that way.
Still love Dark Blasting here from Steve. So there goes the other Delver. And can still try to keep that graveyard in check by gaining some life. Now, it's not all sunshine and rainbows here for Steve because if Alex draws a land, he has Dig Through Time. What did he draw? Pyroblast. Steve Mann takes a draw step. He's going to go to work with the Deathrite Shaman, take care of Cabal Therapy, pass the turn back. Bastecki, big draw. Scalding Tarn.
Well, nothing else in his hand is worth very much. So nothing to do with Pyroblast. You can't really cast the Young Pyromancer because there's a Dark Blast in the graveyard.
But there's one key card in hand, and he's going to pass the turn back, not cast it just yet. To Mann we go.
Risky business, allowing Steve one more draw step here to find a counter.
Yep. He has days. Steve going to keep trying to remove the graveyard here. Bastecki's going to respond. Sacrifice the Scalding Tarn.
And I love this play from Steve here. He's doing it right now to force the issue. He believes Alex probably has Dig Through Time in hand. He doesn't want Alex to wait until he gets another mana. He's trying to make this attractive by getting Alex to fizzle a Deathrite Shaman activation.
Here is Dig. Days has never looked so good.
Mm.
And Days has looked pretty good sometimes.
That one stings if you're Alex.
Yep.
You wonder about that extra draw step he just gave Steve if that was the Days.
Curious to see if Steve will replay the land. The reason I say that is because of Wasteland.
I don't think Wasteland's a huge consideration for him right now with Deathrite Shaman in play.
Bastecki will draw. Picked up another land there in Flooded Strand. The hand here for Alex. Young Pyromancer, Pyroblast. He'll pass the turn back over to Mann. Mann with a Dismember in hand. He'll take a draw step. I believe Delver of Secrets is what he's found. He'll deploy that. Bastecki with the answer to Delver. He's got a Pyroblast in hand. You don't know if he wants to use it on that or save it for something better, but he does have an answer. Pass the turn back. Bastecki looking to draw a card. Looks like Steve will remove Dig Through Time. Bastecki down to 12. Bastecki will draw. Didn't get a great look at what he found. Two mana. It's a young Pyromancer. That means he's got something to do with it. Gitaxian Probe is what it is. You get to see Steve's hand. It's that Dismember. Elemental token is here. Bastecki with attempt at a good redraw. It looks like just a land. He'll sacrifice that Flooded Strand. I think we'll see a Volcanic Island and a Pyroblast here on the Delver.
Yeah, most likely.
I do wonder when is the best time to cast this Pyroblast. The reason I say that, of course, is because you could pick up a little info.
Yes.
With the reveal to Delver, so I don't know if you need to cast it right away, especially when you know the card in your opponent's hand, but he's going to do that anyway. See life totals here, 15 and 9. Mana on tap. Take a draw. If it's an instant or sorcery, Alex is going to miss out on a little bit of info here. Dark Blast, however, is a card that Steve would like to dredge. So the top card would have been Wasteland. See the cards that are turned over with the Wasteland. Deathrite Shaman, Dismember. There's Dark Blast to take care of the young Pyromancer.
I think, again, Steve wants to be proactive in removing this young Pyromancer from the graveyard. The 2 points he takes on the way back from getting attacked by the 2 tokens does not seem as important to me as preventing Alex from resolving one of his big delve spells.
And only 4 cards in the graveyard right now for Alex, so I do like removing that. Bastecki will draw, picked up a copy of Pyroblast, going to come in here for 2 points of damage, man down to 15. Man on the hunt for a card like Tarmogoyf right now, some way to close this game out. Don't know if he wants a Dark Blast, doesn't appear that he does, so he'll just take a draw.
Well, Life from the Loam would also be great here.
That would be very, very good for Steve. Bastecki hoping that doesn't show up. Man will activate Deathrite Shaman. Again, being proactive with that card. Trying to shut off the delve spells. Bastecki will draw. It's a land for him. He's going to attack for 2. Man's down to 13. He has a Lightning Bolt to take care of Deathrite Shaman. Steve's draw last turn was Thoughtseize. So Bastecki has an answer to the Deathrite. And he's got the better board. Man draws a copy of Scalding Tarn. He'll play that and pass a turn back.
Yeah, I think Man feeling it's still a little too early to be dredging Dark Blast here in an effort to get these tokens off the table.
Bastecki another attack for 2. Man down to 11. Misty Rainforest, pass the turn back. Bastecki still with Flooded Strand and Pyroblast. And now Steve Man's going to activate the Dark Blast dredge. Turns over a couple of useless cards, 2 lands and a Daze. He'll pass the turn on the upkeep. Dark Blast here. Get rid of all his tokens. Bastecki will draw. Picked up a copy, I believe, of Young Pyromancer. He'll attack for 1, man down to 10. There's a land for Bastecki. Will man dredge again is the question.
I think with the clock going from 2 to 1, it's in his best interest just to take a draw step.
That's exactly what he does. Picked up a copy of Brainstorm. Will he lead out with Thoughtseize to clear the way? I think that's a great question here. I'm sure he would love to just say cast Brainstorm, but if it gets countered, it's bad news.
Yep. But, you know, he also may want to shuffle away the Thoughtseize.
Uh-huh. Here is Brainstorm. I would be very surprised if this resolved.
Yeah. I mean, I know what Alex is thinking right now, which is I want to be able to play this Young Pyromancer and Pyroblast something to get another token. But Steve's sort of floundering. He's got a lot of cards in his deck that are very, very good in this spot. You just got to counter here.
That's what he'll do. Pass the turn back over to Bastecki. Take a draw step. Lightning Bolt. That's a good one. In for 1, man down to 9. This will give him a reason to play Young Pyro, I think.
Yep. You get to dead another one of Steve's draws. You get to make another token for your trouble.
Put him on a real clock.
You knock him down to 6. At that point, even if Steve is dredging Dark Blast every turn, there's a very good chance you get him into Lightning Bolt range.
Now keep in mind, Steve does have a copy of Dismember in hand. How he wants to use that card is a great question. Bastecki's unsure if he even wants to play this Young Pyromancer at this point.
Yeah, I mean, this could be the whole invitational right here on this call. Because if he just fires off this bolt at Steve, and Steve rips something like, you know, Tarmogoyf or Deathrite Shaman, it could be disastrous.
Now Steve's the one with the decision to make. Thoughtseize Dismember in hand. Looking through that graveyard. No Life from the Loam there, though there is a Dark Blast. He's going to dredge Dark Blast. Going to turn over 3 cards. Force of Will is 1. Underground Sea is 2. Thoughtseize is 3. None of those cards would have helped. Rather take what you know you're going to get instead of the unknown here, perhaps.
Yep. But it works out really nice here for Alex. He bolts him down to 6, untaps and attacks him down to 4. Steve dredges Dark Blast, kills one of them. One more attack, knocks Steve down to 3. Suddenly Lightning Bolt is lethal.
Bastecki at 7, man at 6. Bastecki will sacrifice a fetch land. Underground Sea on top of the deck.
Plenty of bolts left in the deck, too.
Yep. A lot of great draws left here for Alex. He's worked his way beautifully into this situation. He'll untap, prepare to draw. Looks like it was a Ponder. He'll attack for 2. Man still with that Dismember in his hand.
Yeah, can't dismember these tokens.
He's down to 4. Might be Ponder time here. And it is. It's good to go. Brainstorm, Misty Rainforest, Cabal Therapy, the cards Bastecki's found. Feels like maybe a random one's better. I think it's really close, though.
I think that I would, I mean, you can take, I guess taking the Brainstorm here is the same as getting a random draw, except it forces you to use the Rainforest.
Sure. And there's nothing that says you have to cast Brainstorm now.
Right. I mean, he can wait until he absolutely has to.
Will man dredge or will man take a draw?
He might be hitting the point here where he feels like he needs to rip True Name instead.
Well, he would have drawn into Brainstorm, which may have found him a True Name. There's Dark Blast, take care of a token, pass the turn back. You mentioned how he's in bolt range, as Bastecki's going to sacrifice that Misty. He's going to go down to 5.
Yeah, this is the upside here of taking the Brainstorm, is that he can simply shuffle now and then get a bunch of new looks between his draw step and the Brainstorm.
And you know he doesn't have very many lands left in his deck. Time for Bastecki to untap. He can take a draw step before casting that Brainstorm, and that's what he's going to do. That looked to be a land.
No, that was a bolt.
No.
That was a bolt.
That's a card you're very familiar with. Here comes an attack for 1. This is a lightning bolt, and that is going to do it. Alex Bastecki is going to win this match over Steve Mann. Down 0-2. Mulliganing down to 6, game 3. Climbed all the way back. Grixis Delver takes care of Sultai Delver, and for Alex Bastecki, he is number 7 headed to the Players' Championship.
Congratulations. I don't know if we've seen a spot in the finals of our Invitational before where someone was against it that bad. Down 2-0. Mulliganing in game number 3. Again.